Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The Court of the 12th Judicial Circuit in and for Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties is now open and convened, with the judges attending en banc for the investiture of the Honorable Jacqueline B. Steele and the Honorable Melissa A. Gould. All are invited to draw near and give attention as the court is now in session. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon. May I have the judges' husbands, children, and grandchildren come to the front, please? Joining us now to lead the Pledge of Allegiance are Judge Steele's husband, Adam Steele, and grandchildren Zachary Hagerty, Nathan Spate, Tessa Spate, and Wesley Spate, and Judge Gould's husband, Dr. Ryan Jowitz, and children Aaron Jowitz and Nora Jowitz. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Good afternoon. On behalf of all the judges of the 12th Judicial Circuit, I would like to welcome you to the dual investiture ceremony of the Honorable Melissa Gould and the Honorable Jacqueline Steele, and a special welcome to Judge Gould's and Judge Steele's family and friends who are here to share with them this special event. Please welcome Pastor Tim Passmore of Woodland Community Church, who will give the invocation on behalf of Judge Steele.
Let's pray together. Father, we thank you so much for this time, this special moment where we could come together and celebrate two wonderful individuals that you have raised up for such a time as this. God, we're grateful to be a part of this, to be connected through friends and family, also to be connected by community. God, we understand the importance of having people around us to support us and to help us and to encourage us. God, it is our great privilege today to be here to support these who have been selected to lead us in such a great capacity. And I pray, God, that you would give wisdom and judgment and discernment to these who you have placed in these positions, God, of leadership and influence. May their choices be righteous. May we do what we do, God, for the good of mankind. And we thank you, God, for what you'll do through them. And we pray this in your holy name. Amen.
And now Rabbi Michael Sheffrin of Temple Emmanuel will give the Shehecheyanu blessing on behalf of Judge Gould.
Friends, I'm going to go off script for 3 seconds. Can you repeat after me? Mazel tov. Mazel tov. That is what Jews say on a great moment like this. And it means great fortune for all of us. And today is truly a moment of great fortune as these two souls rise up to serve our community. We offer a prayer of gratitude. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Lord our God, who has enabled us and sustained us, and have given us the wisdom and the capacity to reach this moment for this sacred occasion. Amen.
Would you all please join us in a moment of silence for the people of Ukraine? Thank you. Many distinguished guests and all local elected officials were invited to today's ceremony, and I know the term distinguished may be somewhat vague, but could all distinguished guests, as you define that term, and all elected officials please stand to be recognized, and on behalf of Judge Gould and Judge Steele, thank you so much for being here on their special day. This may be a first in our judicial circuit, a dual investiture ceremony. This ceremony is long overdue and may be a record for the length of time between assuming office and the actual ceremony. In fact, there may be another first, an investiture ceremony delayed so long that one of the judges, Judge Steele, has since been re-elected to her position. Obviously, the delay was due to the pandemic. The investiture was, as many of you know, originally scheduled in August of last year, but because of the high COVID infection rate at the time, it had to be canceled almost at the last minute. Maybe one of the most difficult calls I made was to both judges, telling them a week before the event they would have to be canceled. I'm glad that as of just a few days ago, they began talking to me again, and even renewed the invitation for me to speak here today. But by the way, the lawsuit you filed against me for canceling, I assigned that case to me. I hope that's okay with you. So here we are finally. What could go wrong? Friday the 13th? Okay. An investiture is defined as a ceremony in which judicial authority is formally conferred upon a judge. I look at this, however, as more a celebration than a ceremony, a very personal celebration, but also a very important one in our society, in which one of our fundamental principles is the rule of law and the independence of the judiciary to uphold that law. Many countries' constitutions purport to grant all kinds of rights to people. But in many countries, as Chief Justice John Roberts, no relation, put it, those rights are empty promises because unlike us, they do not have an independent judiciary to uphold the rule of law and enforce those rights and liberties. Accomplishing this requires people to take on that large responsibility, and today, we celebrate Judge Gould's and Judge Steele's assumption of that responsibility. With conventionally timed investiture ceremonies, we are forced to speculate on how a judge will perform. Here, we don't have to predict. We have been able to witness both judges' performance since they assumed office, and it has been exemplary. I knew Judge Gould before she became a judge. However, I did not know Judge Steele until she took the bench. You will hear more about both judges from two later speakers today, but just a few comments. Judge Gould was an assistant state attorney before she became a judge, and when she was about to come onto the felony division, I did a scouting report and asked the county judge before whom she regularly appeared to give me the scoop. I was told that she, and I will paraphrase, was very enthusiastic. During the time she appeared in front of me, I can safely say that she was one of the best prepared, passionate, and professional prosecutors I've seen over the years. And I have no doubt that those traits will remain with her throughout her judicial career. Now, when I saw the list of names that went to the governor to fill the county judge seat vacated by Judge Ferentz, there was one name I did not recognize, and that was Jackie Steele. My initial thought, did she mistakenly apply in the wrong county? So I looked her up and was immediately impressed with her background and credentials. I've gotten to know her since she came on the bench in July of 2020. I've seen her in action, and there's no doubt that she, as well as Judge Gould, belong on the bench and will thrive there for years to come. Manatee County and the entire 12th Circuit are fortunate to have both of you. Judge Gould and Judge Steele, it is clear that both of you are performing in exemplary fashion. So some suggestions or advice from an old guy like me may not be necessary, but here are some thoughts, some of which were given to me years ago. Remember, our role is limited. We must follow the law. Doing what is right may not be popular, and doing what is popular may not be right. All of us have different life experiences. What brings people in front of you may be completely foreign to you. Take time to understand what brought them to be in front of you and why they feel the way they do. Nothing says judges cannot show empathy and compassion. On the contrary, they should. To do so, we must be patient and give litigants the opportunity to be heard. As Chief Justice John Marshall said, to listen well is as powerful a means of communication and influence as to talk well. If you do that, then every litigant who leaves your courtroom, irrespective of the outcome, will be comforted by the fact that you took the time to listen. They may call you a moron, but they can't complain that you didn't listen. Sometimes the best judges, similar to referees in sporting events, are those people don't remember after the event because you simply did your job well without controversy. Please reach out to your colleagues for advice. As I look behind me, I see a group of dedicated judges from all backgrounds with incredible wisdom and experience, and in my opinion, the best in the state. I warmly welcome both of you to this excellent judicial family. We now offer our thanks to the following organizations for their support and gifts welcoming Judge Gould and Judge Steele to the county bench. The Conference of County Court Judges, the American Board of Trial Advocates, the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, the Florida Association for Women Lawyers, the Manatee County Bar Association, the Manatee County Bar Association Young Lawyers Division, the Manatee American Inn of Court, the Sarasota County Bar Association, the South County Division, Sarasota County Bar Association. Now, here to say a few words on behalf of Judge Steele is Melissa Volk of the law firm of McConaughey, Coonrod, Pope, Weaver, and Stern.
Theodore Roosevelt once said, "It is only through labor and painful effort, by grim energy and resolute courage, that we move on to better things." Judge Steele epitomizes these virtues. She is a case study in effort, energy, and courage. I have known Judge Steele for decades, 2 exact. During that time, I have had the privilege of calling her my mentor, my friend, and my partner. I will confess that sometimes those roles got a little confusing. This whole ascension to the bench, for example. As her friend, I knew in my heart that it was the right thing for her to do. She was made for the role. The profession and the public would both undoubtedly benefit from her service. But as her partner, for completely selfish reasons, I thought it was a terrible idea. It meant we had to give up one of our most valued team members. I can honestly say that I never in a million years thought I would not be practicing without Jackie right down the hall. But to be clear, that proximity was not always comfortable for me. In fact, when I first started at my firm, it was downright intimidating. News to most, Judge Steele started life after college as an English teacher, something I became acutely aware of as a young associate. Her red pen and my pleadings had a very close relationship. But I learned, I improved, and I am a better attorney for having been mentored by Jackie. I will be forever in her debt for that. And despite going to law school, she has always enjoyed the teaching and training aspect of our jobs. She is quite amazing at it. Her ability to recall facts, statutes, and case law is quite frankly uncanny, a skill I know serves her well on the bench. It is not just mental acuity and legal acumen that make Jackie Steele a good fit for the judiciary. Yes, it is those things, but it is also a combination of intangibles. It is her moral compass, her compassion, her faith, her patience, and her humility. Above all else, it is her courage to do what is right, even when what is right is difficult. Qualities that have made her not only an amazing judge, but also my dearest of friends, more like family. And let's talk about family for a second, because I have never met anyone more selfless and devoted to her family. She is the person in her family that everyone goes to for advice and support. She was the sun that rose in her dad's eyes and her mom's greatest joys. I know every day, and especially on this special day, they are smiling down on you and beaming with pride. Jackie, over the years, has also been my person, my children's Aunt Jackie, the one I always call when I need advice, the one I called when I found out my own mother was dying, who dropped everything to help my husband with our 3 kids when I went to North Carolina to be with my mom. She is also the person my oldest daughter, Riley, calls for help with her college classes, recently staying up past midnight to listen to her rehearse her speech about food security over and over and over again. This she all did gladly, without any hesitation, because that is what Jackie does. She has a heart of gold and is willing to help anyone in need. That is the hallmark of a true leader, selfless service to others. Having grown up in Tampa Bay, she truly cares about the community, is deeply committed to her faith and her church family, and has set out every day to make a difference in this world. She brings meaning to the quote by Maya Angelou, "I've learned that people forget what you do, and people might forget what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel." Now, as you heard, Jackie certainly did not take the traditional path to the bench. After almost 24 years of practicing workers' compensation defense with our firm, someone, who will remain nameless, suggested that Jackie put her name in for the Manatee County judge position. Jackie had not practiced in circuit court for much of her career, and initially I know she completely dismissed the idea as being too far out of reach. However, after much self-reflection and prayer, she realized what the rest of us already knew, that it was the right thing for her to do. The path from bar to bench, like anything else worth doing, requires, as Roosevelt observed, effort, energy, and resolute courage. Judge Steele possesses all of these qualities in abundance. Her legal ability, coupled with her fundamental human decency and her desire to serve, make her ideally suited for this position. My firm's loss is a gain to the public at large. Jackie, I am so proud of you. I am so proud that I've gotten the opportunity to call you mentor, friend, partner, and now Your Honor. I love you.
And now please welcome the Honorable Erica Quartermain, who will offer remarks on behalf of Judge Gould.
Good afternoon. So today we hold the investiture ceremony for Jackie and Missy, and I formally welcome you both. Jackie, I've enjoyed the limited time we had, and I look forward to a lot of great times over the years. We're going to have a great time together. So I come before you all today to share some insights with you all about my incredible friend, Melissa Gould. It's a privilege to welcome you all to this overdue celebration, and to do so in person. It's been more than a year and a half since the voters of Manatee County elected Judge Gould. Missy and I first met during the very brief stint at the state attorney's office when our employment overlapped, and that was over 10 years ago. She went on maternity leave, and I was appointed to the bench. Upon her return, we were reunited in my division. Defying all historic patterns and patterns since, we remained in the same division for 2 years. Now, if you know anything about county court, you know that a prosecutor is assigned to a criminal division for no more than a 6-month period, not 2 years. But I went to Venice after 1 year, and Missy said, "Guess what? I'm going too." So we were together for 2 full years. I think Missy and I both recognized immediately we were cut from the same cloth. She tells me that she told Ed Brodsky at one point that we were going to be friends one day. Well, here we are. I would say we are both competitive and assertive. We love the law and spirited debates. We laugh a lot. I'd like to think I'm as quick as she is, or as hard of a worker as she is, but she sets a very high bar. Sharing qualities like this with another person in a courtroom can sometimes lead to conflict. I recall an occasional side eye, and I knew it the minute I saw it because I had done that. And some of these fine jurists behind me may attest to that. Now, appeals are a rather infrequent thing in county court, but after some time together, I learned that Missy had actually written an outline for her peers on how to handle appeals because she had done several of them with me. As a prosecutor and now a judge, Missy constantly pushes herself to do better. She will push those around her to do better. She has an intellectual curiosity, which I am sure she got from her high-achieving parents who are here today. Missy will ask a lot of questions. Why do we do it like this? Why are PD pretrials at that time? Doesn't it make more sense to do it this way? Well, I was a brand new judge when she was asking me all of these questions. And the truth is, I didn't know a lot of these answers, but she pushed me to find them. And I achieved efficiencies, and I got better. It was a judge boot camp, so to speak. And did I mention it was for 2 years? So Missy kept me on my toes. Missy, you pushed me to do better, and I thank you for that. When she left my division, she made it a point to ask me to lunch and remain connected. We did, and a beautiful friendship ensued. Since that time, we have celebrated major life changes, traveled together, enjoyed spa days, tried a lot of restaurants, and more. Missy is a good friend. She remembers birthdays, checks in when I have something going on. The list goes on. In addition to being a good friend, Missy is a proud and devoted wife to Ryan, mother to Nora and Aaron, daughter of Phyllis and Gary, daughter-in-law to Jack, granddaughter of Bubby, and more. Bubby is Grandma, and I want to talk about Grandma for a minute. She made an indelible impression on Judge Gould. Bubby is a Holocaust survivor. Her and her older sister were prisoners, and Bubby's sister would try to hide her little sister from those who imprisoned them by laying on top of her or shielding her body. The unspeakable trauma is one that Judge Gould remembers, and she is prepared for everything, and I don't mean just prepared for court, although she was always prepared for court. I mean being prepared in life for everything and appreciating every good thing as much as possible. She reminds herself of Bubby every day, including today, by donning a piece of her jewelry. A native of California, but raised in Canada, she graduated from the University of Western Ontario and then the City University of New York, Queens College for Law. She has a Master's of Law from Cambridge University. She's been a law professor, a prosecutor, a private attorney in the civil arena. In addition to all of this, she's a volunteer and completely devoted to the public good. As a child, she received a Canadian National Award for her volunteerism. This was very exciting because she beat out the other 10 children that live in Canada. All jokes aside, her volunteerism and love of community speaks for itself. She has volunteered for many organizations like Meals on Wheels, even when she's really busy, the Florida Israel Business Accelerator, her temple, the Innocence Project, Kiwanis, and the list goes on. She is devoted to her community. She was a great prosecutor. She was nominated as Prosecutor of the Year for the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, sorry. She's always had this, what I would say, je ne sais quoi. Maybe spunk is a good word. One such example of Missy's spunk was a DUI case where the driver was pulled over because, as Judge Gould referred to it in opening, a branch was stuck under the car while the car was in motion. Well, the whole thing was on video, which she played during her case, and this was no branch. This was an entire 10-foot tree, roots and all, like 20 feet wide. And so when this downplayed branch appeared on the screen during the trial, I had to exercise every fiber of my being to restrain the enormous cackle from coming out of my mouth. There was also a time when she was cross-examining an expert and said, "So you have heard of the expert's, Ryan Jawett's treatise on whatever the issue was?" At the time, the expert said, "Yes, of course." Well, the next question related to whether this expert knew that Ryan Jawetz was actually her dermatologist husband and had never written such a treatise. I started glitching on the bench. I didn't know what rule of evidence or what case law would be applicable, but the divine intervened and there was no objection. When Judge Gould won the election, this is when her work went into overdrive. She immediately started asking questions of me again, rapid succession questions. I was transported back to 2013 and 2014. It was fun, although a little tiring, but it was super fun to engage with her professionally again. And she pushed me again on the whys. Why are we doing this? She strives to understand everything. And she strives to do the right thing. She strives to follow the law, and she always wants to do the absolute best that she can. So if you ever receive the question why, do not be alarmed. Do not feel challenged. This is her sincere intellectual curiosity. Had this investiture occurred as it normally would have without COVID, my remarks would have been much different. I would have tried to impart some wisdom that I have gained over the last decade. But having seen her hard work and her drive and her incredible case management skills for more than a year, the only advice I can give to you is to keep doing what you're doing. You earned the position and you continue to do so. I am just so proud of you. I am privileged to know you as a friend and now as a peer. And it's fun knowing you. You make me laugh. And you still push me to do better. I know you will continue to push everyone around you to do better. The people you work with, the people who appear in front of you. Your insistence on getting things right while honoring the worth and dignity of every person who appears before you is going to make a big difference in the world. It already has. It is what you were meant to do. Mazel tov.
Now, the Honorable Renee Inman will administer the oath of office to Judge Steele. Helping her with her robe is her husband, Adam.
Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Florida,
and the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of county judge
the duties of county judge
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
The Honorable Heather Doyle will administer the oath of office to Judge Gould. Helping her with her robe is her husband Ryan and children Aaron and Noah.
You ready? Y'all set? I bet you are. All right. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and government of the United States
and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully perform
and faithfully perform
the duties of county judge,
the duties of county judge,
on which I am now about to enter.
in which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Senior Judge Mark Singer is here to carry on the circuit's tradition, the ceremonial passing of the gavel from the outgoing county bench judge to the incoming county bench judges.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be here today. Judges, the gavel symbolizes the authority of the court over all who come before it. In the past, the gavel has been used to call proceedings to order, to maintain decorum, and to signify that a decision pronounced by the court is final. Today, the gavel is used by the Supreme Court of Florida only during the transition ceremony at which the new chief judge is installed. Here in the 12th Circuit as well, as Judge Roberts has indicated, the gavel is used during the investiture ceremony of a newly elected or appointed judge. In many ways, the passing of the gavel is similar to the passing of the torch, which has its origins in ancient Greece. In essence, the passing of responsibilities of one to another. In presenting these gavels to Judge Steele and Judge Gould today, I, on behalf of all of your predecessors, some of who are here today, pass on to you the responsibilities of a county court judge. It is abundantly clear to all that you're up to the task. Congratulations. No hitting.
It is now time to hear from the judges themselves. Please welcome the Honorable Jacqueline B. Steele.
I want to welcome all our distinguished guests, dignitaries, elected officials, community leaders, the Manatee County Sheriff's Department members, family, friends, and colleagues. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today to celebrate. Thank you to the members of the JNC, many of whom are present today, for nominating me, and to Governor DeSantis for appointing me. Honestly, I was not sure that this day would ever come. I took the bench July 20th of 2022, 4 short months after the COVID shutdown. It was a strange time to be taking on the position of a judge when so many things were shut down and in-person appearances were not permitted. However, despite all of this, the members of the 12th Circuit Judiciary, court administration, and support staff certainly went above and beyond to make me feel welcomed, from a distance, of course, with appropriate masking. Phone calls of congratulations and support were too numerous to count. Offers to assist and the feeling of being welcomed into a new work family were amazing. Thank you to everyone for all of your support, assistance, and encouragement. What I have to say to you is very different than what I would have said last year if our investiture had been in August of 2021, which was 13 months after I took the bench, and it's certainly different from what I would have said if conditions had permitted me to celebrate with you all in a more traditional fashion within a few weeks of taking the bench in July of 2020. I have a very different perspective after serving as a judge for 22 months, and it is one for which I am very grateful. I took the bench on my mother's 71st birthday. It was July 20th, and I picked that date to honor her in recognition of all her love and support of my education and career throughout my life. Many of you know that she unexpectedly passed in her sleep on March 25th. She is with me in spirit, as is my father, who passed in 2007. They both always encouraged me to aim high, strive to do my very best, and to work hard. I owe my life and my success to them, and I would not be here had they not supported and encouraged me. I also want to thank my amazing husband, Adam, for his support and love. We will celebrate our 12th wedding anniversary tomorrow, and these years have been the best of my life. You brought 3 wonderful adult children into my life, and they in turn have since married and blessed us with 7 beautiful grandchildren. My life is blessed beyond words because you are in it. Thank you for always being my rock, for always supporting and encouraging me in all I do. My very special thanks to Judge Inman, who was my mentor judge. Every new judge is assigned a mentor judge during their first year on the bench. Judge Inman spent countless hours helping me to get acclimated and to navigate court during COVID and to figure out Zoom and everything that the pandemic brought with it as to procedures and protocols. Thanks also to Judge Heather Doyle. In her investiture speech, she said that she hoped to be able to assist the next new judge in the same way that she had been helped and mentored by the amazing family that is the 12th Circuit Judiciary. Judge Doyle, I was the very fortunate beneficiary of your assistance as that next new judge, and you succeeded beyond measure. Thank you. Also, to Judge Mark Singer, my thanks. I was fortunate enough to be able to shadow him before taking the bench and during my first 6 months on the bench before his retirement. I am grateful for his guidance and advice. At the time that I started, Judge Inman, Singer, and I were the early birds in county court. Now, Judge Moreland has the absolute reigning title over every early bird, and rarely is anyone ever in court before her, or in the courthouse before her. The rest of us early birds will get there at 7, but she is usually there prior. Judge Singer would always walk by my office and say good morning and check in on me to see how I was doing. I remember one day when I was running late at 8:15, and I was walking down the hall, and he was already heading to court. He looked at his watch, he looked at me, and he said, "My grandfather would say half day." We shared a laugh about that, as we usually do whenever we are together. Thank you again, Judge Singer. To my judicial assistant, Patrina Lanza, I cannot say thank you enough for all you have done, continue to do, and will do in the future. Division II simply would not be able to function without you, and I'm so very grateful. Finally, to Judge Melissa Gould, my thanks, as I have been honored to serve alongside you for the last 14 months and to share this very special day with you. When I embarked on this path to become a county court judge, it was my sincere desire to serve my community in a different capacity than what I had been doing previously. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God opened this door for me. Once I trusted Him and walked through the door, I have never looked back, and it has been a truly amazing experience thus far. One that I am so happy to be fortunate enough, as Judge Roberts pointed out, to continue to do for the next 6 years. I am a native Floridian from Tampa, and I lived in Sarasota, Bradenton for 25 years before my appointment to the bench. I spent my career in private practice doing workers' compensation insurance defense. I am so grateful to my dear colleagues and friends, many of whom are here today, for our time together during those years. This endeavor took me away from one family and led me into another. While I certainly miss so many of you, your support for my new path and your continued friendship are invaluable and treasured. There's a poem by an anonymous author that I have always loved and would like to share with you. People come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. When you figure out which one it is, you know exactly what to do. When someone is in your life for a reason, it is usually meant to fill a need you have expressed outwardly or inwardly. They have come to assist you through a difficulty, to provide you with guidance and support, to aid you physically, emotionally, or spiritually. They may seem like a godsend, and they are. They are there for the reason you need them to be. Then, without any wrongdoing on your part or at an inconvenient time, this person will say or do something that brings the relationship to an end. What we must realize is that our need has been met, their work is done, and the prayer you sent up has been answered. It is now time to move on. When people come into your life for a season, it is because your turn has come to share, grow, or learn. They may teach you something you have never done. They usually give you an unbelievable amount of joy, but it's only for a season. Lifetime relationships teach you lifetime lessons. Those things you must build upon in order to have a solid emotional foundation. Your job is to accept the lesson, love the person or the people, and put what you have learned to use in all other relationships and areas of your life. I have so many lifetimers in this room. I am honored to have the opportunity to continue to serve the people of Manatee County for the next 6 years, and it is my hope that all who appear before me find that they were given an opportunity to be heard, that I listened to their cases, and that I gave their concerns due consideration, treating them with the dignity and respect that they all deserve. Thank you very much.
Now, please welcome the Honorable Melissa A. Gould.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to see you all here live and in person. I don't need to remind anyone to put a shirt on or stop vaping. You heard me. Stop vaping. The Roman emperor and philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "How ridiculous and unrealistic it is to be surprised by anything that happens." But it's clear with a statement like that he was never a judge presiding over Zoom virtual court. That has certainly been an interesting and entertaining experience. First, let me express my gratitude to Judge Quartermain for her generous words. You're a wonderful friend, Erica. I'm always very thankful for your strong support and right-on-the-money advice. You're also an inspiration to me and many other people in the community for all that you do above and beyond your judicial responsibilities. And Rabbi Sheffrin, Judges Roberts, Doyle, and Singer, thank you so much. I'm appreciative of your participation in this ceremony as well. And to all of you, thank you so much for attending this once postponed investiture. I guess we took our chances rescheduling to Friday the 13th, but here we are with bells on. And the joy of going last for speeches is that everyone has already taken my jokes. Judge Steele, Jackie, and I are more than just colleagues. We've become friends, and I'm thrilled to share this day with you and with each and every one of you. It really means a lot to me that you are all here. I'm truly honored and humbled that you took the time out of your busy schedules to share in this historic day of my life. In middle and in high school, I was always involved in student government, and I had to give a lot of presentations during that time. My most short and perhaps iconic speech was when I was in the 8th grade and I was student body prime minister. We had a group of exchange students come to our school from Europe, and the principal convened a full school assembly to introduce these young visitors. The principal had asked me, as the student body leader, to welcome these students, and she told me to do a speech. Her only direction was to make sure my remarks were not too long. Well, when she called me up to the podium, I followed her advice to a T. I stood up, I looked at the audience, the exchange students, I smiled, and I gave a heartfelt welcome. And then I sat down. The principal rolled her eyes. Brevity is good. I plan to be succinct again here today, but go on just a little bit longer than I did back then. As many of you know, I'm American, but a good chunk of my childhood I spent in Canada, which is why I was the student body prime minister and not the president. In 3rd grade, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer, probably because my parents were always watching some version of Law and Order on the television. I was also always heavily involved in community service growing up, and I'm still an active community volunteer, as Judge Quartermain mentioned. Because of my commitment to giving back, I decided to go to law school in New York, specifically the City University of New York at Queens College, because it was and still is the leading public interest law school in the nation. The law school's mission statement is literally law in the service of human needs. While in law school, I had the phenomenal opportunity to intern for a judge, and it was then that I knew I wanted to wear a robe for my career. And no, I do not mean a bathrobe. I felt attending CUNY and then the University of Cambridge for my Master's of Law degree was a great way for me to enter into a profession that would facilitate my hopefully having a profound impact on my community. For those of you who don't know, there are 2 ways that you can become a judge in this great state of Florida. You can be elected or you can be appointed. And it really is all contingent on how the judge who leaves before you leaves. So for example, Judge Singer retired at the end of his 6-year term, which then triggered the election process for me. I grew up with a father who was always actively involved in politics, so I knew that running for this spot was just my way to do it. And I will say that running for office was truly an eye-opening and fascinating experience. There are so many people to acknowledge and thank for supporting me throughout this journey, but first and foremost, I want to shine a light on my best ever phenomenal husband, Ryan Jawitz. When I first approached Ryan about running in an election, he looked at me like I was crazy. He did also have some excitement and intrigue about it all. He cautioned me that he probably couldn't help me as much as I wanted him to because he has a busy dermatology practice, but he did say that he would help when he could. And as my election dates got closer and closer, Ryan helped. He was fully immersed in everything campaign related, and on several occasions I noticed that he came home from work profusely sweating. The first few times I didn't ask him what was going on, but I finally did, and he said that if he could get out of work early, he would find a busy street corner and he would wave one of my signs. So I campaigned in the Florida heat in the summer. I'm not really sure what says true love more than waving my sign in 100-degree weather. And now that I've been in the job for about 15 months, Ryan supports me in other ways. Mostly he accommodates my busy schedule, and he's always understanding when I come home late, and he watches the kids on late nights and weekends. I also want to give a shout out to my kids. During the campaign, our son Aaron was just 7, and our daughter Nora was only 4. And throughout the course of the election, they were literally human billboards, almost always wearing Gould for Judge shirts. And now that I'm in the job, they also support me in different ways. Mostly, it's by honoring my continuing request to be on your best behavior. Don't embarrass mommy in public. You laugh, but... And like Ryan, they are also accommodating and supportive when I come home late or I'm just spent on my day at work. So thank you, Ryan, Aaron, and Nora, for your support during the campaign and for your continued support. Of course, I also want to thank my parents and my in-laws. Mom and Dad, you provided the ideal home environment for me in which I could grow and flourish. With your guidance, patience, advice, and support, you encouraged me at every stage in my life to take on bigger and bigger challenges. And when I wavered, Mom, you would say, work hard, you can make it happen. And Dad, you would repeat your famous phrase, how hard could that be? You both also taught me that respect, tolerance, and community service were important life goals. As parents, Ryan and I are striving to teach our kids these same attributes. To my father-in-law, Dr. Jack Jawitz, his partner, Carol Rice, and to my mother-in-law, Dr. Paula Brooks Jawitz, thank you, thank you, thank you for your never-ending support and always sage advice. There's so many other people to thank, but I'm not going to mention any more names for fear of leaving someone out. A special note of great appreciation, though, goes to the select and extremely skilled and savvy individuals who worked on my campaign as advisors and consultants. We now share a special bond. I am forever grateful to have you in my corner for always. Additionally, to my volunteers, donors, and others who helped get me elected and continue to support me, thank you, thank you, thank you. Many of you here generously gave your time and your resources to help get me elected and to help make my dream a reality, and I'm extraordinarily grateful and appreciative for that. As I mentioned previously, despite the investiture taking place just today, I've been in the job since January of 2021. I'm so appreciative of my fellow judges, my judicial assistant, and court administration for everyone's help, support, and professionalism. We're truly a great team, and it's an honor to work day in and day out with such a talented group of people. It's been quite a ride so far, and I've learned a tremendous amount about being a judge, things that you don't necessarily see from a lawyer's vantage point. I'd like to share with you what I find to be the most challenging things about the job and also the most rewarding. Fortunately, the transition from lawyer to judge has been pretty smooth for me. However, the job is definitely more isolating, and that's an adjustment. Before becoming a judge, I worked at the state attorney's office, and before that, large law firms. There was always a lot of people around, hustle and bustle, congeniality. This job, I'm mostly alone in chambers or in a public courtroom. However, as I mentioned before, the 4 county court judges, we've all become friends. We talk about our rulings in different legal scenarios that come before us, and so while I am mostly alone, that certainly has been a saving grace. So thank you, ladies. Many people don't understand that the jurisdiction of the county court is vast, and in Manatee County, we do it all. Literally, in any given week, I could be presiding over traffic court cases, small claims cases, code enforcement violations, criminal court, landlord-tenant issues, including evictions. It's certainly not boring when you have that many legal scenarios that come before you. I find some eviction cases particularly challenging. It's hard to hear the personal stories and unfortunate circumstances of the individuals who are being evicted. Judges are people. As people, we have feelings. But landlords have rights, mortgages, and families as well, and it's my job to follow the law. If there's no legal basis to have people being evicted remain in their home, then I must act accordingly, despite the sometimes sad circumstances that I hear. For me, the hands-down most rewarding thing about being a judge is getting to see examples of how the system has had a meaningful impact on someone's life. I see the faces of the litigants who come before me. For example, in criminal court, I often hear defendants express gratitude because in some small way I've helped them get a driver's license. And because they could get a driver's license, they then can go to work, put food on their table for their family, and not get evicted. I love that. I then get, additionally, as part of criminal sentences, sometimes treatment for addiction is warranted. And when I hear from individuals that the sentence changed a person's life, and now that person is clean and sober for the first time, that's not lost on me. I very much thrive on stories like that. Switching gears, our son Aaron recently did a 3rd grade project on George Washington, and I've been thinking a lot lately about the brilliance of our first president. Washington and the other founding fathers developed the U.S. Constitution as the rock-solid foundation that has allowed our remarkable country to flourish in courtrooms throughout the nation and on many other fronts, and for a long time. In addition to his leadership, heroism, strategic thinking, and other exceptional characteristics, Washington was also able to see into the future, and he proved that more so. He proved that never more so than in his farewell address. Almost all of his successors used the opportunity of their last speech in office to boast about their accomplishments, but not Washington. After his 2 terms, as he was getting ready to pass the torch and relinquish all of his powers, Washington delivered a farewell speech that instead gave a strong, stark message about what he saw as the most dangerous threat to the concept of democracy and the fledgling nation itself. Even back in the 1700s, Washington was nervous about the brutal nature of partisan politics. He thought the vicious battles of different parties were a very serious threat to the still new America. Like Washington, I think that opposing viewpoints and robust debate are the heart and soul of democracy. Partisan politics has influenced the thinking of a lot of people in this nation about a lot of different issues, though. I think that all of us in the judiciary have a sacred obligation to make decisions solely on the law, and the Constitution has to be our guiding light. I strongly believe, and I am proud to say, that that's the case for all of us here in the 12th Judicial Circuit. Our justice system is sometimes criticized, but it endures as the best system in the world, and I'm honored to work with our extraordinary group of jurists who always make rulings with the utmost integrity. Thank you for welcoming me into this A+ team with open arms. In closing, the people of Manatee County have placed their trust and confidence in me as a county court judge. I know I've taken on a very serious responsibility. Decisions I and my fellow judges make not only affect the people in the courtroom, but to different degrees, the community at large. I view my judgeship as both an exciting opportunity and an incredible privilege, My decisions to date have been and will continue to be based on the facts of the case presented before me and the applicable law. I will continue to serve with integrity, compassion, and a problem-solving approach. I was going to go into bloopers in the job, but I'm not. Please be advised, this is not night court, and so now court is in recess. Let's party.
The citizens of Manatee County and the citizens of the 12th Judicial Circuit are clearly honored to have Judge Steele and Judge Gould as part of our judiciary. I want to ask all of you to please give both Judge Steele and Judge Gould a round of applause and welcome them to the bench. This does conclude our ceremony. I would like to thank you for sharing in our tradition and celebration to welcome new judges to the bench. At this time, we invite organization presidents and representatives to take photos with Judge Steele and Judge Gould, and all of the guests, please enjoy the reception provided by Judges Steele and Gould. Again, Judge Steele and Judge Gould, congratulations.